here we're taking a look at the coordinate plane. We've really been talking about how to use the x coordinate to move to the right or to the left on the coordinate plane, and the y coordinate to move up or down. So if you look at this first example on homework number 7 that we just sent home, students are supposed to give me the coordinates of each point. So we're looking for coordinates here. So off to the side, I encourage students to kind of start this organization where they give me the point, and next to it they'll give me the coordinates. So just trying to work on formatting and organization with students at this point. Well, if I'm looking for point P, if you look here, we could go ahead and start at our origin, and point P looks like it's to the left. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to have to move left until I get to -4. And remember, we always give the x coordinate before we give the y coordinate. After I move -4 to the left, I move up. And moving up means I need to move towards my positive numbers. So it looks like I move -4 left, +2 up. That's what I'm going to write for my coordinates. -4, comma, +2. Next, we're looking for point Q. And I don't necessarily advise that you draw these lines in, but it might just help us to see how to get there while we're starting out. So point Q is a tricky one because if you notice, I would just start at the origin and move left, and there it is. It's actually sitting on the x-axis. So how far did we move left? Well, you would say to yourself, I actually moved 3 to the left. That's a -3 because I'm heading towards the left, or the smaller numbers on the horizontal number line. Next, when you get to that -3, you get to stay there. So that really tells you that you're not moving up or down. The only number that says not to move up or down is 0. So next we'd want to see -3, 0 as your coordinate pair. Next we're looking for point R. So let's see if we can kind of draw a trail to get there. If I start at the origin, also known as 0, 0, first it looks like I'm moving backwards on the x-axis. And we can stop when we get to -4. But notice we also need to move down. We end up moving down 1 unit towards the negative numbers, or -1 I see across from that. So the first thing we did, again, we moved backwards to -4. Next we dropped down to -1. We need to follow that same order. X before Y. -4, -1 is how we complete that. Okay? We want to continue the same strategy for these other points on the coordinate plane, but I see a tricky one coming up. I see point T is actually sitting on an axis. This one's not on the x-axis, it's on the y-axis. And it's tricky when we think about these because there's always a 0 involved, and it's hard to know when the 0 comes first or comes second in the situation. So why don't we look at that one next before we stop with this problem. If I start at the origin and I want to get to point T, am I allowed to move left or right? It looks like I need to stay here. I can't move left or right. I can't go running before I jump. I'm actually here. So that first number tells me don't move left or right. The only number that would make that true is 0. So the 0 has to come first, but let's talk about what happens next. Next, I can move on the y-axis. In fact, it looks like I dropped down 3 units, or I moved to -3. So there it is, point T. If I move 0 left to right, and then I move -3 down, it looks like I'll have point T. So 0 comes first in this case, -3 comes next. Notice how tricky these could be. Point Q and point T. The only difference here is that one of them starts with the -3 and ends with the 0, while the other one is the reverse. It starts with 0 and goes -3 down. So you have to be careful again. Order matters in coordinate pair.